My name is Mara Collins. I am 36 years old, a licensed nurse practitioner and medical spa compliance consultant in Miami, Florida, and at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night, I walked into my younger sister's med spa launch and saw my name on laser treatment protocols I had never signed. Lux Bloom Med Spa looked expensive enough to make danger look impossible. White orchids on the front desk, marble pattern counters, champagne glasses lined under pink lights, a neon sign that said "Glow is Power," and a ribbon stretched across the hallway leading to 3 treatment rooms that had not been cleared the way clients were being promised. My sister Tessa stood under the launch banner in a blush satin dress, holding clinic keys in one hand and a champagne flute in the other, smiling at influencers like she had built a medical practice with vision instead of borrowed forms. Her fiancé Nolan moved through the lobby with a phone on a stabilizer, live streaming every tear, every hug, every sponsor label on the gift bags. My mother, Gloria, stood near the floral wall with a proud face she only wore for Tessa. My father, Raymond, sat beside the product display and looked at the floor, which meant he knew something I was about to discover had already become public. Then, a receptionist handed me a badge that said "Client Check-in." Not licensed nurse practitioner, not protocol reviewer, not the person who built the patient intake system, corrected 31 form errors, created the adverse event log, flagged missing laser certification records, stopped 2 unsafe injectable appointments, and warned Tessa in writing not to use my name, license, or signature on any clinical filing. Client check-in. In my hand was the silver clinic key from my first nursing job, still attached to a faded white badge tag. In my bag was a white medical compliance folder filled with laser protocols, injectable consent templates, HIPAA training notes, patient intake corrections, adverse event warnings, vendor invoices, refusal emails, forged signature pages, and the state medical board packet that had been emailed to me that morning because my name appeared as clinical protocol reviewer. Then my mother lifted her voice in front of clients, nurses, influencers, sponsors, and local press and said, "Mara only booked appointments. Tessa was the one who actually knew how to make women feel beautiful." People laughed softly. Tessa tilted her head like praise made her shy. Nolan zoomed in. I pressed the silver key into my palm and looked toward the treatment hallway, where Dr. Serena Vale from the State Medical Board was holding a tablet with my forged protocol file open. Before I tell you what happened when she asked who signed the laser treatment protocols and my sister stopped smiling, tell me this first. What time is it where you are right now, and where are you watching from? I want to know how far this story travels before my family understands that consent is what keeps beauty from becoming harm. Tessa had always been the pretty story in our family. Not just pretty, although she was that too, with glossy hair, perfect skin, and a way of turning every room into a mirror that reflected her best angle. She was the daughter my mother called feminine, magnetic, gifted, made for people. I was the older daughter who carried clipboards, fixed forms, asked about medication histories, and ruined excitement by saying words like contraindication, adverse event, informed consent, supervising physician, and documentation. When Tessa wanted to start doing beauty pop-ups out of a rented suite after watching 6 months of influencer tutorials, Mom called it entrepreneurship. When I asked who was supervising the procedures, who held liability, and what consent form she was using, Mom said I sounded jealous. When Tessa cried because I would not let her borrow my injector consent template without a medical director agreement, Dad said, "She just wants to build something positive." That was how it always worked. Tessa wanted. I warned. Tessa cried. Mom attacked. Dad softened the lie by calling it peace. And somehow, I became the cold one. My first clinical mentor, Nurse Elaine Harper, taught me not to let pretty rooms distract me. I was 23, brand new, too eager to be liked by patients, and Elaine stopped me outside a treatment room after a client joked that she did not need to read the consent form because she trusted us. Elaine handed the clipboard back and said, "A treatment room is not a photo set. Consent is what keeps beauty from becoming harm." She made me wait while that client read every line. She taught me to ask about medications, skin history, allergies, pregnancy status, autoimmune conditions, recent procedures, sun exposure, and unrealistic expectations, not because forms were more important than confidence, but because confidence built on missing information can leave a scar. Years later, when I saw Tessa selling beauty as empowerment without wanting the discipline behind it, Elaine's voice was the one I heard. Before Luxe Bloom, Tessa had a lash business, a skincare affiliate page, a glow coaching account, and a talent for turning client compliments into proof she was ready for whatever came next. I helped at the edges at first because I did not want clients hurt. I rewrote her intake questions after she forgot to ask about isotretinoin use before a peel consultation. I warned her about using before and after photos without written permission. I reviewed vendor claims when Nolan wanted to buy a discounted laser from a distributor whose paperwork looked like a copied brochure. I told her again and again that a med spa was not a beauty studio with sharper tools. It needed a real medical director agreement, protocol review, training records, emergency procedures, adverse event logs, HIPAA policies, consent forms, and staff who understood when not to treat. Tessa would nod, look wounded, and say, "You make it sound scary." I always answered the same way. It can be scary if people pretend it isn't medical. She hated that word, medical. It ruined the sparkle. Nolan hated it more. Nolan Pierce had marketing hair, marketing shoes, and the dangerous confidence of a man who had never held pressure on a bleeding injection site, but knew how to sell a membership package. He called Luxe Bloom a beauty and wellness empire before there was even a Sharps container in the building. He wanted founder reels, wait lists, influencer sponsors, flash sale treatment deposits, and a launch party where women could claim their glow. He asked me once if clinical intake could be shortened because forms kill conversion. I told him bad screening kills trust. He laughed like I was being dramatic. Tessa laughed with him because love, in my family, often meant agreeing with the person who made the prettier future. Still, I helped more than I should have because clients would be involved. That is the pattern with responsible daughters. We see the risk, and even when we know we are being used, we cannot let strangers walk into the damage unwarned. I built a patient intake system with medication history, skin type, allergies, contraindications, recent procedures, and emergency contact fields. I drafted laser treatment protocols as samples only, watermarked and clearly labeled not for submission. I gave Tessa injectable consent forms that required provider name, product lot tracking, risks, alternatives, follow-up instructions, and complication contacts. I made a HIPAA checklist. I built an adverse event log because every clinic that says complications never happen is already lying. I trained 5 staff members informally on documentation basics after Tessa said her official trainer had rescheduled. I flagged missing laser certification records for 2 technicians. I stopped 2 pre-booked injectable appointments because the medical director agreement was not complete and the clients had histories that needed review. I negotiated refunds from a vendor that tried to pass off outdated safety materials as current training. Every email ended with the same line: "Do not use my name, license, signature, templates, or professional status on any medical board filing, treatment protocol, advertisement, or client safety claim without my written authorization after final review." Tessa never answered that sentence. She answered everything around it. "Love you. You're amazing. Family saves family." Nolan answered once with, "Got it, legal queen," and a crown emoji. I saved that too. My family thought I saved records because I was bitter. I saved them because people who joke around consent usually come back later claiming they misunderstood. The clearest example happened the previous winter, when one of Tessa's facial clients developed a reaction after using a product sample from a brand Nolan was pushing. It was not a medical emergency, but it should have been documented. Tessa called me from her car whispering because the client had commented under her launch teaser asking whether redness and swelling were normal. I told her to stop giving advice in DMs, document the complaint, tell the client to seek appropriate care, preserve the product lot number, and notify the vendor. Tessa said, "That sounds like admitting fault." I said, "No, it sounds like having a record." Nolan wanted to offer the client a free glow package if she deleted the comment. I told him never to trade treatment for silence. He said I was acting like a hospital attorney. I said he was acting like a lawsuit with teeth whitening. Tessa cried for 2 days, and Mom called me heartless because I would not let her make it right in a kind way. The client eventually recovered, but I wrote an adverse event template afterward and sent it to Tessa with a warning. If you are going to touch people's skin, you need a system for what happens when skin answers back. She used the template later with my name cropped off. That was how everything worked. I built the guardrail, Tessa painted flowers on it, Nolan sold it as part of the view, and Mom said I was jealous of the scenery. The first ugly warning came 3 weeks before launch when Nolan posted a video tour. Tessa walked through a white treatment room while soft music played, saying, "All protocols medically reviewed, all treatments designed with safety and confidence in mind." My laser checklist was visible on the counter with my footer cropped off. A clipboard on the wall said protocol approved. I texted her immediately. "Take this down. Nothing is approved until a licensed reviewer verifies final staff, equipment, medical director, and protocols." She replied, "It's just launch language." I wrote back, "Patients hear that as a medical claim." She sent a voice note crying that I never celebrated her. 10 minutes later, Mom called and said, "Mara, women need confidence, not paperwork." I said, "Women need both if a laser is touching their skin." Mom said, "This is why Tessa understands beauty and you only understand charts." I almost said that charts kept women out of emergency rooms, but I stopped. I was tired of explaining safety to people who only respected it when they needed a credential to borrow. The medical board email arrived at 8:11 the morning of the launch. Subject: Clinical Protocol Reviewer Verification, Lux Bloom Med Spa. Mara Collins, please verify the attached laser treatment protocols, injectable consent procedures, adverse event reporting system, HIPAA training log, and clinical responsibility acknowledgement before tonight's opening inspection. Your name appears as protocol reviewer. I opened the packet and felt my hands go cold. My signature appeared under laser protocols, injectable consent approval, staff training verification, treatment room safety readiness, HIPAA acknowledgement, and clinical responsibility. I had signed none of it. The signature had been copied from an old vendor refund letter I had sent for Tessa 6 months earlier. The upload history showed the files came from Lux Bloom's office computer. 2 laser technicians were marked certified, though I had flagged their files as incomplete. The medical director agreement was attached but not fully executed. 18 laser appointments were pre-booked. 9 injectable appointments were scheduled. 52 client deposits had been collected. One client listed in the intake export was Mrs. Andrea Morales, 58, scheduled for a laser treatment after a skin cancer procedure. Her file showed cleared for treatment. I had never reviewed her final medical history. That changed everything. This was no longer my sister stealing credit. This was a client with a complicated history being pulled into a launch schedule under my name. I called Dad before I drove over, not because I expected courage, but because I wanted one last witness before the room filled with cameras. He answered on the second ring. I asked him plainly, "Did you know she listed me as protocol reviewer?" He was quiet too long. Then he said, "She said you had helped enough that it was just a formality." Formality. That word made my chest tighten. In families like mine, theft always arrives wearing soft shoes. I said, "A forged signature is not a formality." He said he would talk to her after the launch. I said, "There may not be a launch." His breath changed. "Mara, don't do this in front of everyone." There it was, the family commandment. Not don't forge, not don't risk clients. Don't expose it. I told him, if there are clients in that building tonight, then everyone is exactly who needs to hear it. He did not answer. When I hung up, I added the call log to the folder. Not because it was evidence for the board, but because I needed to remember I had given him the chance to stand on the right side before the lights came on. I called the board immediately and reached Dr. Serena Vale. She had the voice of someone who had seen enough luxury clinics confuse marble with medicine. Calm, precise, unimpressed. I told her I had not signed the packet, had not reviewed the final laser protocols, and had specifically warned Tessa not to use my license or signature. Serena asked if I had documentation. I said yes. She said she was attending the launch inspection because Lux Bloom had already advertised first-week treatments and board-reviewed protocols. "Bring the original records," she said, "and do not sign anything handed to you at the event." That last sentence told me she had watched family businesses hide liability under ceremony before. I packed the white folder. Medical board email, refusal notices, original templates with metadata, missing laser certification warnings, injectable consent corrections, HIPAA notes, treatment room safety checklist, vendor invoice disputes, adverse event log draft, Nolan's marketing posts, the forged signature pages, the patient intake alert for Mrs. Morales. Then I took the silver key from my drawer. It had opened the clinic where Elaine Harper trained me. It reminded me of the first time I understood that a patient's trust was not a compliment. It was a responsibility. Nolan met me at the entrance at 6:42 before the ribbon cutting. He wore a white blazer and a headset mic, which should have been illegal on personality alone. In his hands was a blush-colored card with gold lettering. "Family launch blessing," he said, aiming his phone just low enough to catch my reaction. We are having everyone sign a little message for Tessa before the toast. The top page said, "May every woman leave here glowing." Under it, folded once, was a clinical responsibility acknowledgement stating I accepted responsibility for Lux Bloom's laser protocols, injectable consent procedures, staff training records, HIPAA policies, adverse event system, and opening treatment schedule. My signature line had a tiny rose gold arrow. I looked at him. This is not a blessing card. His smile tightened. It just confirms the support you already gave. I gave draft templates. Tessa appeared behind him, champagne glass in hand, lips already trembling. Mara, please, not tonight. Then why is my name on the medical board packet tonight? Her eyes flicked toward Nolan. 1 second, enough. Mom rushed over in a cream suit, angry under a smile. Do not embarrass your sister in front of clients. I looked past her at the women standing near the treatment hallway, some with deposit envelopes, some filming, one older woman reading a pamphlet about laser rejuvenation. Clients are exactly why I'm starting. The launch was built to make caution look cruel and unfeminine. A floral wall, soft pink light, gift bags with sponsored serums, nurses in white uniforms, influencers filming the Champagne Tower, a local beauty reporter asking Tessa about building confidence, clients waiting to schedule consultations. Tessa stood under the Lux Bloom banner and gave a speech about women deserving to feel radiant, seen, and powerful. She was good. That was what made her dangerous. She could make unsafe speed sound like healing. She thanked Nolan for building the brand, Mom for believing in her, Dad for quietly supporting the dream, and Mara for helping with appointments and little forms in the beginning. Little forms. My protocols were in her board packet. My consent forms were in her treatment rooms. My forged signature was holding up her launch. Then Mom said her line about me only booking appointments and Tessa knowing how to make women feel beautiful. The room smiled. A few influencers laughed. Serena Vale arrived during the smile, tablet in hand, expression flat. Before Tessa could lift the ribbon scissors, Serena stepped toward the treatment hallway. Before any medical or aesthetic treatments are scheduled or performed under the submitted clinical packet, she said, I need to verify the laser protocols and clinical responsibility acknowledgement. Tessa smiled too brightly. Of course. We're very excited to show you everything. Serena looked at her tablet. Mara Collins is listed as clinical protocol reviewer. Nolan jumped in. Yes, Mara has been a huge help behind the scenes. I stepped forward. I did not approve the submitted packet. The lobby went quiet in pieces. The nurses first, then the clients, then the influencers, because even people who film everything know when content has become evidence. Tessa laughed softly. She means she helped with early drafts. I opened the white folder on the reception counter and placed my refusal email beside the forged laser protocol page. This says do not use my name, license, signature, or templates. This is what was uploaded. Serena compared them. The submitted signature was uploaded from the Lux Bloom office computer and was not verified through Mara Collins's professional account. First proof slap. No drama, just authority. Mom stepped forward. This is a family misunderstanding. Mara has always been intense about medical things. Serena did not look at her. Laser treatment protocols are medical things. I pulled out the missing certification warning. 2 technicians were listed as cleared. I flagged both as incomplete. One of the nurses near the hallway shifted, eyes wide. Serena opened the staff section. Technician files show certification marked complete. I placed my email beside it. Do not schedule laser treatments until certification documents are verified. Serena looked at Tessa. Who marked these complete? Tessa looked at Nolan. Nolan looked at the floor. Second proof slap. This one hit the treatment schedule. A client near the front whispered, I booked laser next week. Serena said, all scheduled services may require review. The champagne tower suddenly looked ridiculous. Serena also opened the HIPAA section. Training completed by all staff, she read. One receptionist raised her hand halfway, terrified. I haven't done the privacy training yet. Nolan told me to just not say client names out loud. The beauty reporter stopped typing for a second, then started again faster. I pulled out the HIPAA checklist I had sent Tessa with the first line highlighted. Privacy is not a vibe. It is a procedure. Nolan muttered that I was making a launch party sound like a deposition. Serena looked at him and said, It is becoming a record review because your packet made medical claims. Then she opened the adverse event log. My draft had a section for complication timing, provider notified, follow-up instructions, photo documentation with consent, and escalation. Their submitted version had half those fields removed and a pastel header added. I said, they made the form prettier and less useful. A nurse whispered, I noticed that. Tessa shot her a look. The nurse kept her eyes down, but she had already confirmed the point. Even the paperwork they stole had been weakened for branding. Nolan tried to save it with smooth language. We are a new clinic. Some administrative files are still being finalized, but our commitment to client empowerment is absolute. Serena turned to him. Commitment is not a protocol. I almost smiled. Nurse Elaine would have loved that. I opened the injectable consent form corrections. 9 injectable appointments were scheduled before the medical director agreement was fully executed. Tessa said, the doctor agreed verbally. Serena said, verbal agreement is not the same as executed oversight. Third proof slap. A sponsor quietly lifted her gift bag off the display table like it had become contaminated. Then I said the name that turned the room from awkward to serious. Please open Andrea Morales' intake file. Mrs. Morales looked up from the pamphlet. She was elegant, nervous, and exactly the kind of client luxury clinics love to reassure quickly. Serena opened the file. Laser appointment after skin cancer procedure. Cleared for treatment. Protocol reviewer, Mara Collins. I looked at Mrs. Morales. I have not reviewed your final medical history. Her face changed. They told me a nurse practitioner approved it. Tessa whispered, Mara, don't. I said, that is why I have to. Serena looked at the file, then at Tessa. Who cleared this client? Tessa said, our intake system flagged her for review. I placed my warning email on the counter. High-risk skin history requires medical review before laser scheduling. No clearance until documented. Serena read it. This client should not have been marked cleared under Mara Collins without review. Fourth proof slap. This one had a woman's skin and trust attached to it. Mom grabbed my arm near the champagne table. You are humiliating her. I looked at her hand until she released me. She used my license on patient files. She is trying to help women feel beautiful. then she should not put them at risk. You never understood beauty. I held up the silver clinic key. I understand harm. Dad finally stood from beside the product display. His face was pale. Mara warned you, Tessa. Mom turned sharply. Raymond? Dad kept going, voice low but audible. She sent the emails. She said not to use her name. I saw them. It was late and thin, but in that lobby, late truth still moved the air. Tessa stared at him like he had betrayed her, which was rich given my signature was on her packet. Serena asked the question that made Nolan stop breathing. Who uploaded Mara Collins's signature? Tessa looked at Nolan. Nolan looked at the tablet. Mom looked at Dad. Dad looked at me. The Collins family avoidance chain stood under pink lights and orchids. Tessa whispered, Nolan handled the portal. Nolan snapped, You told me she would be fine once she saw the launch. Not here. He did not say the words, but his face did. Not here was always where truth finally arrived. Serena turned to Nolan. Did Mara sign the clinical packet in your presence? She gave us the protocols. Did she sign? Silence. Clients, nurses, sponsors, reporter, influencers, all waiting. Finally, Nolan said, No. One syllable. Not enough to fix the packet. Enough to enter the record. Serena placed Lux Bloom's treatment launch under hold pending verification of laser protocols, medical director agreement, staff certification records, consent forms, HIPAA training, adverse event procedures, and client intake review. No laser appointments, no injectable appointments, no clinical services under the disputed packet. Client deposits had to be reviewed. Marketing using board-reviewed or medically approved language had to be corrected. Sponsor materials tied to treatment safety had to be paused. The ribbon still hung across the hallway, soft pink and useless. Tessa's smile was gone. Nolan lowered his phone. Too late. Deletion would come later. The room had already seen enough. The deposit issue grew fast. A woman near the retail shelves said she had paid for a 3-session laser package because Nolan's ad said board-reviewed protocols and medical oversight were in place. Another client said she had booked injections during a launch discount that expired at midnight. A sponsor asked whether her skincare brand would be listed in connection with medical services that were now paused. Nolan tried to gather them near the floral wall and speak softly about temporary adjustments, but Serena told him not to make representations while the review was active. It was the first time I saw Nolan without a script. He kept opening his mouth and finding no caption. Tessa looked at me like I had turned women against her, when the truth was simpler. They had paid for safety she had not earned yet. Mrs. Morales stepped toward me, holding the pamphlet with both hands. Should I cancel? I softened my voice because she had done nothing wrong. You should request a proper medical review before any treatment anywhere. Not because you did something wrong, because your history matters. Serena nodded. You will not be charged for canceling under a disputed clearance. Tessa flinched at the money. That told me enough. The confrontation moved into the consultation room because Serena needed statements. The room had a velvet chair, a ring light, a treatment bed, and a framed quote that said, "Beauty begins with trust." I hated that quote in that moment. Present were Serena, Tessa, Nolan, Mom, Dad, me, one nurse, Mrs. Morales, and the clinic manager. I insisted the door stay open. Closed rooms had protected Tessa long enough. Serena laid out the timeline. Mara created draft templates. Mara warned against use of her license. Final packet listed Mara as clinical protocol reviewer. Signature uploaded from Lux Bloom office. Laser certification records incomplete. Medical director agreement not fully executed. High-risk client marked cleared. Injectable appointments scheduled. HIPAA training marked complete, though 2 staff had not attended. Adverse event log copied from Mara's draft with her name removed. Then she asked Tessa directly, "Did Mara Collins authorize use of her license or signature?" Tessa wiped her face. "She helped us," Serena repeated. "Did she authorize it?" Tessa looked at the ring light, then at the floor. "No." The nurse beside the cabinet finally spoke. "I asked about the laser certificates yesterday. Nolan said Mara had cleared them." Nolan glared at her. Serena asked, "Were you trained on adverse event reporting?" The nurse shook her head. "We were told the binder was at the desk." Fifth proof slap. Staff proof is different. It shows the lie had already moved from file to practice. Mom started crying in the consultation room. Tessa only wanted to make women happy. I said, "Then she should not have used my license to skip the hard part." Mom said I was cruel. Serena looked at her and said, "Clinical safety is not cruelty." I wanted to frame that sentence. Mrs. Morales asked whether her deposit was restricted to the launch pricing or refundable. Nolan opened his mouth, but Serena answered first. Deposits for services under disputed clinical clearance must be reviewed and cannot be used to pressure treatment. Mrs. Morales nodded and sat back. She looked angry now, not fragile. Good. Anger can protect clients when charm wears off. By 8:30, the launch had become a compliance hold. Nurses stopped taking appointment confirmations. Clients asked for deposit copies. Influencers posted vague stories about unexpected drama at a med spa launch, then deleted them when they realized the medical board was involved. Sponsors asked whether their products were tied to paused services. Nolan disappeared into the hallway on the phone. Tessa sat in the velvet chair, crying into a napkin, and for once, nobody rushed to turn her tears into proof of innocence. I left with the white folder under my arm and the silver key in my hand. Dad walked me to the parking lot. He did not ask for comfort. He said, "I should have stopped them." I said, "Yes." He nodded. I wanted Tessa to succeed. You wanted her story to be true. He looked back at the clinic. I did. That was the most honest thing he had said in years. The fallout started before midnight. Nolan posted that Lux Bloom had voluntarily paused clinical services to enhance client education after overwhelming demand. Mrs. Morales commented, "Was my clearance actually reviewed by Mara Collins?" The post disappeared in 9 minutes. Deletion is not disappearance. Serena had the packet. I had screenshots. Clients had receipts. A beauty reporter wrote a careful piece about a med spa launch delayed by medical board protocol questions. Tessa called me 14 times. Mom called 26. Nolan sent one message accusing me of sabotaging a women-owned business. I replied once. You submitted my signature. Then I muted him. The formal board review happened the next week in a plain conference room with gray chairs and no floral wall to hide behind. Serena reviewed the findings. Mara listed without verified consent. Signature copied from prior document. Laser technician files incomplete. Medical director agreement incomplete at submission. Client deposits collected under board-reviewed claims. High-risk client marked cleared without documented review. Injectable appointments scheduled before oversight was finalized. Tessa admitted I had not signed. Nolan admitted he uploaded the packet after Tessa said I would support it. Mom tried to say family businesses run on trust. Serena replied, medical treatment does not run on trust alone. It runs on informed consent and verified protocols. I wrote that sentence down because Elaine Harper would have loved it. Lux Bloom was not permanently destroyed. Real life rarely gives endings that neat. The clinic launch was held under corrective action. Clinical services paused, deposits reviewed, marketing corrected, laser staff certification verified, medical director agreement completed properly, consent forms rewritten with actual review, HIPAA training redone, adverse event procedures trained, not just printed. Mrs. Morales received a refund and later found a dermatologist-supervised clinic for her treatment. Tessa lost sponsors. Nolan lost face. My mother lost the ability to say, I only booked appointments without someone asking why my name was in the board file. I did not rescue the business. That mattered. I offered one formal option. Remove my name from all filings, pay me for the templates used without consent, hire an independent clinical consultant, notify affected clients, and never use my license again. Tessa refused for 4 days. Then the board hold stayed in place, and deposits started turning into refund demands. She signed. The invoice felt clean. Not happy. Clean. Boundaries often feel like grief before they feel like freedom. 3 months later, Lux Bloom opened smaller and quieter. No champagne tower, no live injections, no discounted launch laser day. A real medical director agreement, verified staff certifications, corrected consent forms, actual adverse event training. Tessa sent me one photo of the treatment room safety checklist, signed by the correct reviewer, not me. No caption, no hearts, just proof. It was the closest she had come to understanding my language. I also changed the way I talked about beauty after that. Before Lux Bloom, I had kept my work quiet because I did not want to sound superior to women who loved aesthetics. Afterward, I stopped apologizing for the clinical side. Confidence and safety were not enemies. A clean consent form did not make a woman less beautiful. A proper intake did not make a clinic less welcoming. It meant the person behind the desk saw the client as a whole human body, not just a before and after photo waiting to happen. That became the sentence I used in every training. If your business needs the client to stay uninformed so she feels excited, then you are not selling confidence. You are selling risk. I wanted every woman who entered a treatment room to know the difference before a device touched her skin or a needle crossed the room. I built something after that because clients kept messaging me. Women who had paid deposits at med spas with no idea who supervised treatments. Nurses whose names had been placed on protocols they never approved. Estheticians pressured to operate devices beyond their training. I launched Collins Aesthetic Safety Shield, helping med spas, beauty clinics, nurses, estheticians, and clients understand laser protocols, injectable consent, medical director agreements, HIPAA records, adverse event logs, and client risk documentation. My first workshop was called Consent Keeps Beauty from Becoming Harm. I placed the silver clinic key on the table beside a sample laser protocol, a fake launch blessing card with hidden liability language, and a checklist for clients. Ask who the medical director is. Ask who performs the treatment. Ask what happens if something goes wrong. Read the consent before paying, and never let luxury lighting answer a medical question. Nobody laughed. Too many women had trusted a pretty room before. My mother still says I embarrassed Tessa. I say Tessa put clients under my forged clinical approval. Only one of those matters to the medical board. Dad now forwards me anything with a signature line before he lets Mom or Tessa touch it. Late learning is still learning. Nolan no longer points a camera at me. Good. Tessa and I are not close, but her clinic is safer than it was under the ribbon. She still knows beauty better than I do in some ways. I still know what beauty can cost when people skip consent. Both can be true. The silver clinic key hangs in my office now, polished from years of worry and a few hard-won boundaries, under Nurse Elaine's sentence. A treatment room is not a photo set. Consent is what keeps beauty from becoming harm. My family invited me to the launch as the girl who booked appointments because they thought beauty belonged to the woman holding champagne, not the woman holding the protocol. They forgot that every client lying on a treatment bed is trusting more than confidence. She is trusting records, training, consent, emergency plans, honest screening, and the person willing to say, "Not today." They forgot that a med spa does not become safe because the lobby is soft pink and the founder is charming. It becomes safe when the boring parts are true. So tell me, if your family forged your name onto clinical protocols and called you bitter for stopping the launch, would you stay quiet so the photos looked beautiful? Or would you open the white folder and let the records protect every woman waiting behind that ribbon?